How Dangerous Are Labels by Professor Nigel MacLennan. There's one memorable line from Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking-Glass. "When I use a word," Humpty Dumpty said in a rather scornful tone, "it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less." That isn't just a casual comment from a children's tale. It's a statement of profound meaning. How we label things influences or even controls how we think of them. The descriptors are not chosen lightly. Often labels are chosen to have a desired effect on others. That is shown in the timeless observation, "One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter." Even corrected for more inclusive times, it still reveals the impact of labels. One person's terrorist is another's freedom fighter. Has anyone who ever fought against injustice not been described in negative terms by those imposing the injustice? Was José Rizal, a national hero in the Philippines, described as a terrorist and criminal by the occupiers? Is the same person lauded, even today, as a hero? The labels that a long list of dictators have used to describe others have led droves of otherwise decent people to willingly kill millions of their fellow citizens. Post-traumatic stress disorder was belatedly adopted as the term now widely used by the American Psychiatric Association in 1980. But it had been observed by armed forces throughout history. Jean-Martin Charcot in 1887 described that traumas could be re-experienced years later by those who were unfortunate enough to have experienced war. In World War I, people we now know were incapable of fighting were executed by their own countries for refusing to fight. They were labelled as cowards and shot. Now we would label them as being severely traumatized and provide help. Change the label and what follows changes dramatically. Label someone as a criminal and throwing away the key is easier on our consciences. Label them as having been deprived, malnourished, abused, traumatized, and self-medicating with alcohol or drugs, having been rendered mentally unwell and unable to contribute to society by their traumatic childhood, and we think very differently. Even subtle differences in labeling can have huge implications. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, sends a very different message to post-traumatic stress injury. Criminals are described as disordered. Disorders, in the psychiatric and medical sense, are usually long-term and incurable. What effect does it have on someone if we tell them that they have a disorder? It conveys the expectation that there is no remedy, or at least one is extremely unlikely. That learning to live with the disorder is expected. What effect does it have on someone if we tell them that they have an injury? It conveys the expectation that they will recover with time and that treatment will help. That there is something that can be done to get better. Which person who has experienced genuine trauma and is experiencing the usual after effects, such as heightened anxiety, flashbacks, nightmares, avoidance behaviors, relationship problems, etc., is most likely to take self-responsibility for getting better? One who has been told they have a disorder, or one who has been told they have an injury? It seems obvious that if the signal is sent via the label injury, that most people will be better engaged in self-curative behaviors. We see similar consequences in other areas. Professionals in the mental health world, when they don't know what is the cause of a person's irrational behavior, will use different labels depending on the seriousness of the irrationality. Borderline personality disorder at the milder end, and schizophrenia for more serious cases. There is that word again. Disorder. People respond to their environments and are shaped by them. People who have developed difficult to deal with behaviors have almost always been subjected to trauma, usually long-lasting. By labeling their challenge as a disorder, they hear the signal, no hope here, and act accordingly. As a label, schizophrenia is even worse. I have repeatedly heard clients say words to the effect of, "I can't help it, I'm schizophrenic." The label gives the client permission to resign themselves to being incapable of doing anything to get better. In 98 to 99% of all cases of mental challenge, there are no known biological causes. No virus can be discerned, no chemical imbalance, no pathogen, the medical model simply cannot explain the cause of the unusual behaviors. What can do even more damage than the unknown causes is giving people a label that disempowers them, which gives them permission to abdicate all self-responsibility. If it turns out in the future that apparently irrational human behavior is, in the vast majority of cases, socially or circumstantially caused, as many thinkers throughout history have noted, we will look back at our current labeling and ask ourselves questions. Did the way we label the problem prevent us seeing the solutions? Did our labels take away the one thing that could have helped? Hope for recovery. Did describing something in ways that implied that it was permanent and incurable make it so? Did the way we label something turn it into the label we gave it? Did giving something a label create the illusion that it was understood? Did we create labels to reassure ourselves that something was understood? Were our labels an act of self-delusion? How dangerous are labels? Very. Be very careful of how you describe or label everything. Your words may create a reality that was never there.